question for you. Where does an emotion originate from? What I mean by this is, how do you know you're experiencing an emotion? Thoughts come from the mind. The mind thinks. We feel physical sensations in our body. I feel cold. My back hurts. But what about an emotion? Where does it come from? How do we know that we are experiencing one? I believe knowing something about how we experience emotions has profound implications for the level of happiness and well-being that we enjoy in our lives. So, coming back to this question, how do we know that we are experiencing an emotion? I'll tell you the answer. We know that we are experiencing an emotion because we feel it in our bodies. The definition of mindfulness. Mindfulness is a wholehearted, open, and enlivened way of touching into the full depth of our lives. So today, I wish to demonstrate that our bodies possess a great deal of wisdom that isn't accessible through our thinking minds. Our society values the intellect to such a degree that so many of us are often cut off almost entirely from our physical experiences. I hope to establish, or at the least, make you a little bit curious about this idea that we can significantly alter the momentum in our lives by a willingness to feel into our bodies and to mindfully experience our emotions.
But let's make this clear, we are emoting all the time. There is no such thing as a mind without emotion. We have a mind with images flowing, all those interesting things, pictures of the world or sounds of the world, and we also have, in response to every one of those images, some kind of emotion and some kind of feeling that comes on the heels of that emotion. So we are not necessarily thinking machines, we are feeling machines that think. Now, when we acquire this great beauty of our minds with the profusion of images that we generate in the cerebral cortex, we can then combine them with the images that are being generated out of emotions, and which are called feelings of emotion. Let's be very attentive to this. The fact that we are capable of thinking, reasoning, and having this incredible construction at the very high level of the mind does not mean that we have forgotten about emotions. The emotions are still here, and the feelings are still here, and they are accompanying everything we do.
This is the great secret that everyone knows except us in the West. Almost any other culture that we go to, from the monasteries in Egypt and Tibet and India into Bolivia and Peru, the indigenous traditions, little villages in the Andes Mountains, they all know that there is this experience that we can have inside of our bodies that affects our world in some way, and our science simply has not allowed for that historically. And what we begin to understand is that this is the place where science got it wrong. There are two places, two assumptions that science has made, modern science, and they're coming full circle and correcting that now. But the first one is that the space that we believe is empty is not really so empty. It's full of a living essence, of a living material that we're only beginning to understand, number one. And number two, the fact, and it is a fact now, that we may have experiences inside of our bodies that influence the world beyond our bodies through the conduit of what's in this space. So as a scientist, I've also come to understand this is a very different way for many people to think about themselves and their world. And I've found that there's a learning curve that our audiences and our friends and families and coworkers in my career at the Water Fountain, this is not something that people typically talk about in a technical organization. They don't wake up in the morning and say, what kinds of feelings, what kinds of dreams, what kinds of healings did you have over the weekend? And they're talking about who won the football game and who won the lotteries. But this is where it brings us, the relevance in our lives, because we all are having experiences every day. Whether we are consciously aware of it or not, those experiences are physically affecting our bodies and our world. What Western science now is beginning to understand, only in the last years of the 20th and now the first years of the 21st century, it is now a scientific fact that the space between things is anything but empty. It is full of a living, pulsating essence that is so new scientists have yet to agree on a single term. Some are calling it a quantum hologram, very technical sounding name. Dr. Edgar Mitchell, the former Apollo astronaut, I've had the honor of sharing a stage with him a number of times. He calls it nature's mind. Stephen Hawking calls it the mind of God. Others simply call it the field. In 1944, the father of quantum physics, Max Planck, identified the existence of this field, and he called it the matrix. He said, underlying everything that we see, our bodies included, everything we see in the world around us in our bodies, he said, there is the existence of what must be a conscious and intelligent mind. This is his language in 1944. He said that this mind is the matrix of all matter, and it's from his work that the movie series began and many of the ideas that we have today. So what we know is this, is that we have the opportunity to influence that field in ways now that we're only beginning to understand. It's done through the human heart. It's not a thinking process. Thoughts are important. The ancients made a distinction between thoughts and feelings and emotions. And it's the feelings that are centered in our heart, what are called coherent, heart-based emotions. We know that when we feel a feeling of love, compassion, understanding, forgiveness, when we change the self-esteem, that there is an effect from that it changes the electrical and the magnetic fields in our heart, and that those fields literally change the stuff that our world is made of around our bodies. Our hearts are the strongest magnetic field in our bodies, and our hearts are the strongest electrical field in our bodies, much more so than the brain. While the brain does create those kinds of fields, the heart is many times stronger. And what the science now is showing is that when you can change the field that the atom is in, you change the atom, and we're made of those atoms. So when we have feelings in our hearts, we're changing the field that connects the stuff everything is made of, and we literally are altering our physical reality in ways that sound miraculous in Western science. But again, this is the great secret everyone knows except us.